Good morning, everyone. Sway Money here, and welcome back to Hack My Labor, the tutorial series that aims to teach you how to tinker with and upgrade any ship in your arsenal by starting with your Laborer module. We added 8 extra thrusters to our Laborer last episode. That extra speed is nice to get yourself out to your next mining mission and back, but it can be a little hard to fly around the station or approach asteroids without a delicate touch. Today we're done with easy mode. We're going to be learning the basics of YOLOL by creating a turtle mode button that will choke our thrusters and adjust our generator whenever we want to relax and take in the scenery. Before we get started, I stream on Twitch every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, where I experiment with all these tweaks and upgrades. If you have any suggestions or want to see me figure these things out live, there's a link down below. Also, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you find the series useful. In order to enable our turtle mode, we'll need to write a short YOLO script to control things. This means you'll need the basic YOLO chip research unlocked. You'll also need the control tables, screens, and small devices research in order to craft a new button. The ore you'll need for making a chip and button isn't even worth mentioning today. It's chump change. For the rest of the series, you can substitute researching the items you need for buying them from the auction house if they're available and you have the cash. Press comma to access the auction house while near an origin station. YOLOL is the in-game scripting language you can use to control most things on your ship. You can write some pretty complex things like full GPS coordinate systems, which we'll cover in a future episode, but most of the scripts you will personally write will probably be simple little things like a turtle mode script. Depending on the level of chip you have, you'll be able to do more advanced math functions, but we won't need to worry about that just yet. A basic YOLO chip will be just fine for this, and will probably be good for most of what you'll do with YOLO for a while. To get started, we're going to need to craft or buy a hybrid button, a basic YOLO chip, and a YOLO chip socket. You can find all these under Ship Parts, Devices. Now that we're done with that little bit of crafting, let's pull our ship into the ship design workshop. This is the black and orange building located right next door to the Easy Build Hall, so it shouldn't be hard to find. I recommend pulling into this workshop whenever you're doing any serious work on your ship, as trying to attach pieces in space can result in some floaty objects that don't like to bolt down properly. The workshop offers a safe, instant space to work, and things tend to stay where you put them unless you physically bump them. You also don't need to worry about your ship despawning. Since we won't be using the Easy Build Hall for building anymore, you may want to consider building your own crafting bench if you haven't already, so you can plop it down anytime you need to craft while at the station. Once you're safely inside the blue box, you can go ahead and take care of the easiest part of this upgrade. We need a button on our dashboard that will enable and disable turtle mode for us. Lucky for us, there's a nice empty space on the left of the main controls right under the transponder button. If you see this type of metal texture somewhere, there's a good chance you can connect a control to it and it'll automatically get power because the plate itself is powered. Since this is outside of easy mode, we won't be using the hotbar to place items. Instead, you'll want to grab the hybrid button from your inventory and drag it outside the inventory window, which will drop it into the world. You can then pick up the button with E and move it near the empty space in our dashboard. Rotation is a little different as well. You can use the scroll wheel to move items closer and further from you, and you'll hold X, Y, and Z while moving the mouse to rotate along each axis. Once you have the button lined up sort of close to where it should go, toggle snapping on by pressing C. It should just click into place if the rotation is close, but you may need to do some extra adjustments until it snaps into the right place. Don't forget to bolt it down. Something I do after installing any new device is to check to make sure it has a data connection to the network. All devices and variables live on the network, so you can test to make sure a specific device is connected properly by seeing if you can see the network from that device. Pull out your universal tool and set it to data mode. Now hover over the button we just installed and press U again. If you see the long list of darker variables on the left and a lot of things happening on the right, you know you're connected to the network. If you only see the white fields associated with that device, something isn't right and you might need to check your electric connection or verify that it's properly snapped into place and bolted down. While we have a universal tool in data mode, let's hover over our button again and press U to bring it up. You're going to rename the button state field to turtle. We also want to change the button style to 1 in order to make it a toggle push button, so we just push it once to turn it on and push it again to turn it off. Button on state should already be 1 and button off state should already be 0, so we don't need to change those. Now let's head back to our ship and we can install our YOLO chip. You can put this anywhere you like, but since we'll probably be using more YOLO chips, I found the back area to have enough space to hold all of our sockets. We'll first need to hang the socket on the wall. Open your inventory and drag the socket outside the window. Be careful in small spaces like this, as you may accidentally place the item through the wall when you move it out of your inventory. There's been a couple instances where I lost the item altogether. Line the socket up on the wall and snap it somewhere you like. You can place it with the E key. Remember to bolt it down. You'll need to connect this to power, and luckily for us there's a duct right here to connect to. Ducts are special metal plates you'll find on beams that carry wire and pipe signals through them. We just need to connect our YOLO socket to any part of this duct with the wiring tool. Let's check the data connection to make sure everything's connected properly. Looks good. It's time to write a little bit of YOLOL. Before we get started, there's a couple settings I think you might like that are off by default. Zoom in on YOLO chip on editing and zoom in on YOLO chip after unlocking will zoom your camera into the chip instead of requiring you to find a good angle to stand at while you write code. You can play around with any combination of these settings to see what you like best. Take out your basic YOLO chip and snap it into the chip socket. Now we can start editing. Approach the YOLO chip and click and hold on the lock and then pull down to open the code editor. I'm going to go over our code so you can understand what's happening and hopefully you get a good feel for how to write a really basic YOLO script. The first line, we're going to create a couple of local variables that we'll use to easily define what values we want to use. TT will stand for thruster turtle, and we'll set that to 15. YOLO allows the line of code to execute more than one statement at a time, so we can continue with TD, which will stand for thruster default. Next, we'll define GT as generator turtle, and then GD as generator default. These variables are all going to be local to just this one YOLO chip, so they don't require a colon in front of them. Variables that are defined on other devices require a colon to access them. The next line of code will go if :generator equals 1, then go to 3, else :gm equals 0.001 and go to 1. So first we'll start an if statement. The if statement checks to see if :generator is equal to 1. So if the generator variable on the network is 1, then just go to the next line. Otherwise set :gm to 0.001 and end the if statement. Afterwards go back to line 1. Here we're using GM to stand for generator max. In hold, this line checks to see if the generator button is on. If it is, we continue, and if it's not, we turn the generator off. The final line of code is if :turtle equals 1, then :tm equals tt, :gm equals gt, else :tm equals td, :gm equals gd, and go to 1. This line looks complex, so let's go over it. First, we start another if statement that checks if :turtle is equal to 1. Remember the button we just installed and renamed to turtle? This if statement will check to see if that button is on. If it is, we'll set :tm to the variable tt, then we'll set :gm to gt. Otherwise, we'll set them to td and gd respectively. The variables without colons should look familiar because we define them all on line 1. After it evaluates the if statement, we jump back to line 1 and do it all over again. That's all the code we need to get the turtle mode working. We still need to rename a couple things on our devices to finish things up, so let's do that. First, we'll head over to our generator fuel chamber. Hover over this and take out your universal tool. We want to change generator to GM. This is the variable we referenced from our YOLO code, so whatever we set :gm to will change the fuel chamber unit rate limit to that value. Next, move to the cockpit and hover over the generator button and take out your universal tool. We're just going to change the button on state value to 1 and button off state value to 0 here. This is what our YOLO script will read to see if the generator is supposed to be on or not. Lastly, move to the left side of the pilot's chair and adjust the throttle lever. This should be the closest lever to the chair and will be labeled FCU forward. We want to change the name of the field lever max output to be TM. This is the variable we reference in YOLO when we set :TM, which will make sure this lever can never go over 15 when turtle mode is active. That's all there is to it. Now we can turn on the turtle button and our generator, and we should move out of the workshop at a much slower pace. Once we get clear of the station, we can turn off turtle button and zoom along to our next mining adventure. If you find turtle mode to be too slow or fast, you can adjust the TT and GT variables on line 1 of our YOLO code. I feel like we covered a lot today, and I hope you learned something. Next time, we're going to rearrange and spice up our dashboard and talk about using the ship designer to craft parts you may not have access to craft normally. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do remember to leave a like and hit the subscribe button. If you have any extra questions or suggestions, don't be afraid to leave them in the comments. I also stream every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday on Twitch, where I do all the experimentation for these upgrades. You can find a link in the description to follow me there. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next one, but for now, please take it easy.